My goal here, once again, is to find a router that does multiple WANs and does it well.
Sit back, relax, and enjoy my film.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for once again joining me for tea time. Today we have a little bit of misty morning. That zing. So good, guys. Hope you're joining me with your cup of tea, maybe a cup of coffee, hanging out, talking tech, talking photo, talking video. Today is a tech day. It is a follow-up to my Starlink alternative router videos. I've done about, I want to say 3 or 4 already, maybe even 5. I don't know. I've been testing out a lot of routers for you guys. A lot of you have come to me and said, listen, I have Starlink or I have another service provider, whoever it is, and they go down every once in a while. Even if it's just for 5 seconds or 10 seconds or 20 seconds, whatever it is, when I'm doing a conference call because I'm working out of the house or whatever the case might be, my meetings go down, or all of a sudden I'm just not there, or I turn into a pixelated mess like a Minecraft character or something. How do we fix that? And the way to fix that is with a multi-WAN router. So if you have, for example, for me, I have Starlink as a main internet provider, and then I have AT&T Uverse as a secondary. I can put the two together using a router that allows for a dual WAN setup, and then have it fail over or load balance between the two, so there's no outages or minimal outages. And that's what I've been looking for months for you guys. And there's a lot of good and there's a lot of bad to all the different routers that I've tested. And I want to do this video as a follow-up to another router that I just tested today. But before I get into it, I want to say that if you haven't downloaded any of my ebooks as of yet, why the hell not? Go get them. They're free. Go over to JCristina.com/books. Once again, JCristina.com/books. Also, if you want more Starlink coverage, I made a Starlink playlist. Go check that out. Also, if you haven't subscribed to the channel as of yet, please consider doing so. And then click this little button over here so when I go live or when a new video comes out, you will be notified of it immediately. And if you get anything out of this video at all, consider giving it a thumbs up and sharing it with your friends, family, colleagues, Reddit, Facebook, wherever. That would be very helpful to help me and you build this channel. Because this channel is all about us. It's not about me, just this talking head sitting here telling you information as a guru. It's about this communication. And all of the great stuff that happen on this channel happens down below in the comment area. So go and check those comments out. A lot of smart people, smarter than me, down there. Ask them questions. Anyway, so getting right into this, let me just give you the backstory of what we've tested so far if you haven't watched any of the other videos. If you haven't, I encourage you to do so because I get down and deep and dirty, let's say, with all of these different routers and show you exactly real world why they work and why they don't work. When we first started, we checked out the Peplink ER605. Now, it was a very good router. It did great. It worked. It is a dual WAN router. The problem is to fail over from WAN 1 to WAN 2 took about 25 to 35 seconds. At that point, your session is like timed out and your Google meeting or whatever you have, a Skype, has already timed out and people are like, well, where the hell did this guy go? So we can't have that. So the next router that we tested was the TP-Link ER7206. It's a big boy to the small boy of the ER605, and it is a business or professional class router, according to TP-Link. Well, it's a bunch of nonsense, all right? It's the exact same router. It's more beefy. It's got a faster CPU. It can handle more VPNs at the same time. If you don't know what that is, I have a whole video on VPNs. Anyways, there's a lot of stuff that it does in addition to the ER605. The problem is it still has a horrible failover of the exact same 25 to 35 second failover. I contacted TP-Link. I talked to their engineers after going through all of the tech support stuff, the regular tier 1 people, and they say, listen, you know, there's nothing that we can do. It just is not made to do failover like you want it to do. Basically, what we're looking for is something that fails and then comes back quickly. So it's snappy, because we can't have this fail take 25 to 35 seconds before it moves over to the alternative ISP. We can't have that. Anyways, the next router that we used was the UTT ER840G. And it was a really nice router. It was probably one of my favorite at the time. The problem is the failover was a little bit quicker, about 15 seconds, 20 seconds, right around there, sometimes 25 seconds, but it was definitely faster than the TP-Link routers. And after doing research to see, is there any way for us to change that timing so that it can test the regular route to the alternative route on a quicker basis and then flip-flop between the two? The answer was no. There's no way of doing that. So obviously the UTT was out. These are all great routers, but once again, we're trying to get a router for a dual-WAN setup. The next one that I tested out was the TrendNet. Now the TrendNet was the TWG 431R or 431BR, I think it was. And it worked really well. It was just a simple UI. It was very just kind of basic, but then also thorough too. It gave you a lot of functionality, a lot of options. But the thing was based on, and probably one of the issues was, it was based on open source. It was based on the DDWRT firmware. Now, it is great firmware, but they just added some little niceties into it and a little extras and now put it into their hardware that they made. They also have a professional version of that router, and I purchased that too. I forgot the number of it and the name, but we tried that too, and it had the exact same end result. So the failover was instantaneous from WAN 1 to WAN 2. I was like, oh my God, we have found something here. The problem was once it failed from WAN 1 to WAN 2, it would never come back to WAN 1. So I contacted tech support and I got the engineers, I think they're out of Texas, and they said, listen, there's no way to do it. All right. The way it's currently set up, we do not have, it has to be a rewrite, basically. It will not fail back or fall back as you need. It is session based, meaning that you have to actually kill the session for it to go back or fail back to the primary that is now back online. What that means is if you're in a Google meeting or if you're doing Skype or if you're on whatever, you have to actually close that and open a new one for it to go back to your faster internet provider. Also, if you're using, and one of the main reasons why this is important is there's a lot of people that are using a main provider, then a secondary provider that is a wireless provider that might not be unlimited. Maybe it's just your cell phone that you're using as a backup. Well, we don't want it to just fail over to your cell phone, for example, and just stick there for the rest of the day. Then all of a sudden you get a bill for like $300 at the end of the month. You didn't even know what happened because you were watching a 4K video and your kids were killing people on Fortnite or whatever. You don't want that, right? You need to be able to fail back. And once again, the TrendNet didn't do that. So then we went on to a Peplink Balance 20. And the Balance 20 was really, really good. The only problem with the Balance 20, even though it was the best out of all of the routers, is that it only had a maximum of 150 megabit throughput. And we know that on Starlink's best day, hasn't been for a while, but they can do probably 250 to 300 megabits down. Well, at 150, you're going to be stuck at that 150. I've seen it hit right around 160, squeezing it, but it's really 150 megabit max on the Peplink Balance 20. So we couldn't use that, and I ended up returning that. But everything else worked good. The fail over and the fail back, perfect, guys. It literally was perfect. Well, today I ended up doing a test on this one. Well, this box is heavy. The reason being is it's already back in here. This is the Ubiquiti EdgeRouter, the X SFP. And while it is a very, let's say, a good router, I mean, if you want to do a single WAN setup, this thing is just unbelievable. It is quick. It has a ton of functionality. Now, the GUI or the UI, the user interface, is a bit old looking to me. And also, the way that it works is just clunky, right? So if you want to do any kind of setup on it, and you're not like a network engineer and you want to go into, let's say, your terminal and go and do all of your stuff in there, the UI itself just is old and clunky. And I really don't like it. But like I said, it works perfectly for a single WAN setup. No problem. Very, very easy. But All things went south when we tried doing a multi-WAN. Now, yes, you can do a multi-WAN setup with this router, and it does fail over. But like other routers, it never fails back. It doesn't have that fallback. It just sticks. Wherever it falls to, it just sits there. And it does have a really nice wizard. So once you load into it and you are able to set it up as like a standard setup, or like you have different possibilities, like a load balancing number 1, a setup for load balancing number 2. It has to do with how many ISPs and whatnot. Anyways, we use the load balancing setup. We put in our WAN 1, we put in our WAN 2. It creates the masquerade so it knows which ones, what network is what. Anyways, we're not going to get all into it. The bottom line is it does everything that it needs to do so that they both work. The problem is it never goes back. It just sits there on WAN 1, and it's just very, very frustrating. I want to show you this UI a little bit. So this is the dashboard. We have a WAN 1 right here. This is Starlink. We have WAN 2, which is AT&T. And then we have our LAN over here, which would be on port 4. So everything is working fine. Right now, we currently have AT&T that's doing all of the heavy lifting. Starlink is doing nothing. And the reason being is Starlink went down for a few seconds, and then AT&T picked up where Starlink left off. And the problem is Starlink will never come back again. And the reason being is, like I said, it just doesn't have the ability to switch back or fail back. If you have WAN 1, which is right here, it goes down, it switches to WAN 2, that's fine. But then when WAN 1 comes back up, it never comes back. So that's a major problem. Also, this UI, this interface, I just feel like it's very kind of outdated, old. If we want to make modifications, we come over here to the config tree. And over here is how we make the modifications. And now, to me, this is ridiculous. Here's an example. Like if I want to check on load balancing and make changes, I click on load balancing. Then I go to the group, go to group G, then go to the interfaces. We have Starlink here and we have AT&T here. If we click on the Starlink WAN, these are our options. We can change it into failover only. We can change routing. As you can see, it just digs down deeper and deeper. Like here we have count. So this is the count. How long does it take to failure? How long does it take to success? Then we can go to, for example, type, and we have our ping. Where do we want to ping? Right now, it will ping the Ubiquiti network. If we want it to ping, let's say 8.8.8.8, we can put that in there. Then we hit preview, and then we hit apply, and there we go. We just added that in. But you see, this is how we make changes down this long list of craziness, right? We go to interface, and here's the Ethernet. How is this set up? Do we want to remove one, add one, whatever? We can go into each one of them, and then look at this. This ETH0 would be our Starlink. We could control bandwidth and all of the rest of this stuff. So it is a very powerful piece of hardware. It is just horrible the way it does it. Now, another way to do it is you can open up a shell, and then you can SSH into the actual unit itself. Now, this is obviously not for everyone. So if you want to take a look at what's going on, we can say show load balance status. And there you go. So we can see right now the Starlink is up, but it's inactive. Why? Because we can see over here AT&T or WAN 1 is active and it's 100% weighted. That means it's doing all of the traffic. It shouldn't be, because right now we know that Starlink is up. I know that Starlink is up, but yet it will not switch back. We could also use Watchdog, for example. Here we go, Watchdog. And we can see what is going on this way also. We can see how many fails, how many drops, all the rest of the stuff. It says currently down. It is not down, but regardless. This is a means of doing modifications and changes if you want to get into it, let's say into the nitty gritty. And it feels like it almost wants you to be in here to do the changes in comparison to here, because this is just, I mean, look at this mess. This is just, to me, it's a wreck. Whereas if you are a network engineer and you're sitting there working on, like what I do sometimes, I'll work on some fiber Cisco routers. Well, most of the time you're not in a GUI anyways. You're going to be sitting there at a terminal window and you're going to be plugging in what you need to plug in to make modifications or to test things. It's just easier that way once you know the way it works. But if you are just a layman, let's say, that doesn't know about any type of networking at all, you're not going to be sitting there in a terminal window typing in stuff because you're not going to know what to type. And this UI is just the way they set up the tables, and you're going down and you're figuring out what you want to change and how to change it. It's just by far the clunkiest out of all of the routers I've seen. I would say the oldest feeling out of all the routers that I've seen so far. So, it is what it is. The problem, once again, with it is as a single WAN unit, it really works good. It gives you tons of functionality, all right? But the problem is for a multi-WAN setup, it's just not great. Now, I know there's going to be guys out there and be like, listen, you can do this and you can do that and whatnot. But guys, after doing a lot of research and seeing how you fix this so it will fail back, you're putting in a script that's this long. And if you don't know what you're doing, you don't know how to even do that. And even when you do, now what is it doing? Do you even know? Can you even fix things later? Then if things go south and you have to reset the router, now you have to figure out how to put that back in 2 years from now. You're like, I have no clue. It's just not a user-friendly for someone, once again, it's a lay folk that just don't want to know about it. The fact of the matter is we need to have a router that does terminate session on connection recovery, basically, is what it needs to do. So that if a session is going on WAN 2 and WAN 1 comes up, it needs to terminate that session for this one to immediately pick back up, right? And do it quickly. If it doesn't terminate the session, then it wants to be sticky and it wants to stick with that specific route, let's say, and then it just goes south. It goes dead and it won't transfer it back over. Or it'll get stuck there and never leave, like if, for example, in load balancing in comparison to a true failover. So it's just, we need to have that service, let's say. And Peplink is one of them that does have that service. So I'm going to get another one of their routers in and test that out. Not next, because I have another router that I just brought in today that I want to test for you guys. Maybe I'll show you that maybe in the next couple of days. My goal here, once again, is to find a router that does multiple WANs, all right, and does it well, and does it simply, so that you can just go into the UI, go into the GUI, go into the user interface, click here, click there, and be done with it. And it just simply works. You don't need to know all the back ends of doing multi-WAN nothing. It should just be able to work. Plug everything in. It asks you a couple of questions in a nice wizard, let's say, and then it sets it all up. All of your masquerading, all the stuff that you need to do, so you don't need to know about nets and subnets and all the rest of the stuff and how DNS works and which way things are going. It just does it for you. And it does it well. Meaning that when WAN 1 fails, within seconds, it goes and swaps over to WAN 2. And then when WAN 1 comes back up online, within a few seconds, it swaps back over to WAN 1. Once again, very important if you're using a paid type of plan, a metered plan like a cell phone as a secondary backup, right? So we need this to be able to happen. And also we need it for if you are doing these conference calls or whatnot. If not, you're going to have to reload into the meeting and people are like, where in the hell did he go? Not ideal, right? So anyways, guys, I hope you found this a little bit helpful. We really didn't get to a final goal of what's the best in this video, but this video was more about telling you about where we have been and where we are as of today. And then I will continue going forward for you guys because I know a lot of you have been asking me for an update. What have you been testing behind the scenes that we don't know about? Well, this is one of them. And once again, this EdgeMax, this Ubiquiti is not the answer. So what is the answer? I don't know. But like I said, I have another one that I'm going to be testing today or tomorrow. And then I have another, I think a Peplink coming in next week. So there's a lot of testing that will be going on, and I will give you the real world behind all of this, as I always do. And hopefully we can find that router that's just going to work for all of us. So anyways, guys, I hope you've enjoyed this. And as I always say, if you have even a little bit, please consider giving the video a thumbs up and subscribing to the channel. If you want more Starlink content, as I said, go check out my Starlink playlist. There's a lot. I think it's about 70, 80 videos now in the Starlink playlist alone. So go check that out. Also, head over to my website, JCristina.com, where you can find all the photography tools I've invented for you and me over the years, and hopefully there's something there that you might like. And if there is, please pick it up and support me and my family. That's it, guys. I'm out of here for yet another vlog. Many blessings to you and your family. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you in the next one. Love you all.